Hi, everyone. This is Marta. You can find me as Marta Schmarta on Instagram, Ravelry, and Blue Sky.
And I'm Freddie Betty. I can be found on Ravelry and Blue Sky as Freddie Betty, on Instagram as Freddie Betty01, and on Facebook as Betty Kroll.
Now it's time to get this party started with our brief review of Lesson 4, Cast-Ons in Patty Lyons' Knitting Bag of Tricks, the official workbook.
Many have been looking forward to the beginning of the tips and tricks portion of this workbook, and here we go.
Patty Lyons presents tips for improving your long tail and cable cast-ons, which represent the two main families of cast-ons, the double strand and the single strand.
I feel this lesson 4 is a foundation lesson like lesson 1. As Patty states, a bad cast-on can ruin our work.
Lesson 4 involves creating 4 swatches and refers to them as swatch numbers 6 through 9. These swatches will be used later in the workbook, so please hang on to them.
We would also like to point out that there is a lot of supporting material for Workbook Lesson 4 available in the Knitting Bag of Tricks original book and Patty Lyons online resources. We have compiled a cross-reference guide. Links to this guide can be found in the Lesson 4 thread of the Unraveling Podcast Ravelry group, the Unraveling Podcast Facebook group, Marta's Instagram bio, and my Instagram bio. We will also keep a list of cross-reference guide links for many of the workbook lessons at the end of this CAL's information document, which can be found in the same locations and on unravelingpodcast.com.
The first 2 exercises in Lesson 4 deal with improving your long tail cast-on and how to fix a dropped cast-on stitch. There were 5 tips packed into this long tail cast-on row, but they were broken down in a logical manner. These exercises were very straightforward and easy to follow.
The next workbook exercise explores a long tail cast-on and pattern. Instructions are presented to cast on knitwise and purlwise, thus establishing a nice base for a rib pattern. I love this exercise. I recently finished a cowl with ribbing. The pattern instructions were to use a long tail cast on, knit 3 inches of flat 2x2 ribbing, and then join the work in the round to form a placket. I felt using Patty's tips to square my cast on ends and to cast on and pattern really would have helped the foundation row of this project.
That cowl was amazing, Betty. I loved looking at the details on your project page in Ravelry. Lesson 4 continues with presenting tips for the cable cast-on in purl. I'm a huge fan of 2-stranded cast-on methods, so mentioning that we can cast on and pattern was a great reminder for me. Patty's improved start and yarn over trick were new for me and made cable cast-on a more viable option for future projects. These 2 tips eliminate that rounded edge into a cleaner, more squared off edge. These tips also work for cable cast-ons worked in both knit and purl stitches. What did you think, Freddie Betty?
I agree. I love learning how to cable cast on and purl too. I enjoy making hats. Some like to use the cable cast on to avoid calculating the length of the tail needed for a long tail cast on, but prefer how the cable cast on looks on the inside of the hat. Many get around this by knitting a row after the cable cast on, then turning the work right before joining in the round. Using the cable cast on and purl would eliminate the step, and I'm looking forward to trying it. Moving on, the next exercise is working the cable cast on and pattern. This method is also known as the alternate cable cast on. This cast on provides a great stretchy foundation for 1x1 ribbing.
I agree. You can also rearrange these cast-on stitches to accommodate 2x2 ribbing in the same manner as you would for tubular cast-on. As I mentioned earlier, some of the cable cast-on techniques were new to me. I have plans to focus on mittens and hats this year, So having alternative cast-on methods will help me plan those projects. I really like one-stranded cast-ons because, like you said, Betty, I don't need to figure out how long to make that two-ended tail. How did your cable cast-on and pattern go, Betty?
I thought these cast-on instructions were clear, but I struggled with my swatch results. My stitches leaned to the right no matter what I tried. Lesson 4 ends with a review of other types of two-stranded and one-strand cast-ons. Patty lists examples of each and then asks you to name some. What cast-ons did you add to Patty's list, Marta?
Your cast-on can make your project wearable, cumbersome, decorative, or even completely unusable. It's important to have a toolbox full of options so there's enough stretch, it's snug enough, it doesn't detract from a focus point in the other work, and looks exactly how you want. I added Judy's Magic Cast-On, Old Norwegian Cast-On, Tubular Cast-On, and Turkish Cast-On to my two-strand cast-on list. I added Chinese cast-on, figure 8 cast-on, magic ring cast-on, and provisional with a crochet hook cast-on to my one-strand cast-on list. Which cast-ons did you add to Patty's list, Betty?
Well, you made some excellent points about cast-ons in general and had some great additions to the list. I added the 2 and 3 color braided cast-ons to the two-strand cast-on list and the backwards loop and I-cord cast-ons to the one-strand cast-on list. Well, I think this is a great place to wrap things up. We hope you enjoyed these exercises in Lesson 4. Thanks for listening.
Bye. See you next time, Betty.
Bye.